So, it's the morning of August 10th, 2022. I'm tired. Last night I had these weird contractions. Right now I'm having weird stuff going on down there. It's like opening and closing. I can feel it. I want to just go eat something quickly, but the only thing quick and available is trash food. It's like it's getting a lot stronger since he's gotten bigger, so I'm trying really hard not to misperceive, or I guess that's a word, right? Misperceive, it sounds weird. So misconstrue, misunderstand the amount of pressure that's being placed, say, on my bladder and uterus all at once, so that I don't have to go to the hospital prematurely or have this baby prematurely. I'm trying to calm myself down in little ways. I really wish I just had a place to rest and not have to worry about survival right now. Not have to worry about people screaming and yelling at me for no goddamn reason, or trying to hit me, or trying to violate me in any way. So I pissed on myself last night. And the other day, I was trying to drive to a gas station, but I was too far away, and I took a dookie on the side of the road in a patch of like tall grass. And of course I have wipes and, napkins and whatever, but what about the people that don't have that? What about the people that are like living in squalor and either on drugs, like hard drugs, like meth or crack or whatever, fentanyl type bullshit, and they have no inhibitions, and they're the ones at the gas station sucking dick, is what one person said to me. I had a private discussion. Those are the types of people you catch in the gas station restroom sucking dick for whatever drugs. Weed is not a drug, though. Like, weed is my medicine. That's what keeps me feeling better. Before I smoked right now, I was so extremely sad. Then I smoked, and now I'm talking about my feelings, and I'll probably perk up a little bit and get on with my day and my business, because and I talk a lot. I say a lot of things, and some of them are contradictory to what I had said prior. Everyone does that. I don't care who you are. Men do it all the time when they're talking about dating a girl. They do it all the time just to get in their pants. So, I really want this. I want a family. And then it's like all of a sudden, hey, there's a baby inside of me. And you're just going to ignore that? That's wild. That's completely wild to me. It makes no sense. Like, the reason I made sure to match up with this person is because he seemed, through his photos and through his profile picture, as like a family person. And even the person, Thomas, that was just me. I was just to go hang out, and he was really weird, and he offered me to stay there and stuff, but then left me sleeping on the couch while he went to his room. And I thought that was really like crazy, like very strange. But then again, he was very drunk, so I don't know if he was just an alcoholic or what. I don't know. I don't really care to find out about either one of these people, but I'm like, there's a child inside of me. There's another human being, and he's gonna have questions, and he's gonna need his life story pieced together, or he's gonna have issues for the rest of his life. And everyone has issues. So, I mean, maybe that is his curse. Maybe it is his curse that at the time when I give birth to this baby, I will not be able to keep him. regardless of what everybody says, you'll have a place, God'll provide, or that's what they kept telling me. And I thought, well, you're right. If I ask, if I seek it out, it's got to work out, right? It's got to work out in a good way to where I'm finally happy for once in my fucking life. And it's a sustained happiness and not something that is just sort of fly by and, easily dissolvable, or just sort of, short term. I never intended to be promiscuous like that and to get impregnated as it happened, and that's why I blame the father, because I didn't intend to have that happen at that time. And regardless of which one it was, whomever it was. I still believe it's the secondary guy, though. I do. Because like I stated prior, none of the other men had actually finished up inside of me. None of them. So that's, then there were the two guys. And the one was on the last day of my menses. And it was very heavy after I'd gotten up after the ordeal. And I just presumed that a lot of it had fallen out. And he was drunk. So maybe a majority of it wasn't functional. So... and I explained all that to the secondary guy, and it's just very, very hard to realize that I was used, that I was just violated in that way because he was having an urge, because he wanted to scratch an itch, and then he just went off. I think it would be different if we would have had more of a relationship, if we would have had more communication, knowing that I had only known him for a couple of days, a few days of just communicating back and forth. But if that's the duration of the relationship with the father of the baby, then that's fine. I wouldn't mind trying to raise the baby alone, but then at the same time I know that my heart wouldn't be in it fully, and that's sad because I gave so much effort and attention to my daughter, or I placed so much effort and noted that I needed to pay attention to all of her needs at all times, because she was not necessarily demanding, but she was a child and she had no way of communicating, so I was on everything. She never really communicated with me. We just sort of stared at one another. I would ask her, and she wouldn't even nod or agree or decline. She was just a very good baby. She just never had issues at all. We never had, I never had to yell at her. One time she scribbled on the wall, and I had to explain to her, don't do that. It's not there. Go to the paper. And she had never done it again. So, I didn't get mad. I didn't scream about it. Kids will be kids. And she was actually not unruly at all. She just went along with whatever. And she was just the sweetest, cutest little thing. And I'm not worried that I'm going to feel that way toward this baby. I didn't have enough time with him. And I don't think that I could start to breastfeed him and then have to give him away shortly thereafter within a couple weeks, knowing that I wouldn't be able to support him. And I'm not seeking out any type of stupid compensation for it, child support or any of it. If he wasn't created and wanted by both parents, and I wanted a child, I'm not gonna lie. Deep down I wanted a child with someone, to fill the void that was created when my daughter was ripped away from me and everybody had refused. To see it from the true victim's perspective. So I started creating these videos so that people understood the pain that a mother goes through, that a good mother goes through, one that's not a crackhead, one that's not a meth head, one that's not out sucking dick and getting into trouble, one that tried to sustain herself through, like I had stated prior, more wholesome means, raising puppies and, keeping to myself as per usual. God, I didn't think that I had offended so many people. But then I have to go back and look at it and think, oh, well, psychology is the thing that has science, advancement, evolution is actually what they're despising of, that they despise and think that I'm cruel because I tell them the facts about the world around them, and I tell them the facts about the way things work and the way that, chemistry and biology and physics, all of that work around us. And I'm just a very simple-minded girl that was raised in rural Wisconsin, and I just went to private parochial schools, until the 8th grade. So I knew that I was smart, but I didn't know I was that smart. And comparatively, when I start having discussions with random people here and there, different towns, different locations, a majority of people are misguided and misinformed. So my beliefs and my words and my usage of terms is confounding to them. They're very confused. They're very befuddled, perplexed. Baffled by why I would, they would ask me, are you British? Are you, because you speak very properly. You speak very strangely. And I thought, I don't understand. I speak as though I was created to speak, and that's appropriately. And I was taught, and not just through school, just to live life doing the best that you can. Always try to make that next step better, or to try your hardest to work toward a better version of yourself, a better version of events, so that you can not have that pain and suffering that others are forced to endure. So I thought by keeping to myself and being celibate that it would be fine and that it would come back around. And I know that when in the heat of those moments as well, I can't help myself because of the trauma I sustained as a child at the hands of the people that said they loved me. Well, that's not love. That's filthy perversions, and that scarred me for eternity, So I come and go out of my realities because my imagination, and I call it imagination station, my imagination is where I'd rather be. I would much rather just live a very peaceful life, going about my days, dancing and singing, and not worrying about the issues that men have amongst themselves, especially the ruling class, and how they are so persuasive in getting their way and getting the way of men around them, because they have not realized, even in this day and age, that child marriage is wrong, that incest is wrong. So around the world, I see all of these nasty perversions and these things that have caused so many physical ailments, and I'm horrified. I wake up in the morning and I interact with certain fragments of the rest of the world just through media, and it's not even media, it's just a lot of relayed documents or documentaries, video clips that are seen that are actual reality for some people. That's factual. You can't make up some of these scenarios to where everyone is hurting in such a manner to not have the resources that even I have. So I understand how privileged I am, and how privileged my children will be, regardless of the psychological and emotional trauma that they've had to endure by being ripped away from their biological mother, who wasn't that bad of a person. Yes, I know that I had made mistakes under the guise of the devil and all of these pharmaceuticals and laced and tainted additives, and that in turn caused me to act out physically. I realized that my certain symptoms, whatever is wrong with my diagnoses, whatever form of, I believe, autism, which and I've been told by others that yes, that seems appropriate, that I've always had, but was forced to contain and forced to regulate because nobody else wanted to see it. Nobody else wanted to hear it. Nobody else wanted to partake in my reality because I was just too flamboyant, or I was too creative, or I was too talkative. And I've had that my entire life. I've always been told to shut up. I've always been told, your words don't matter. You're just a girl. And I'm like, wait a second. I was raised a tomboy. I could whip your ass if I wanted to, but is that the route that I'm going to go? No, I'm going to scar you for life with your own words. I will mark you for being so incredulously, backhanded, or, incompetently selfish in that manner. And I just feel like there are so many people that don't think that their words are going to count against them as well as their actions. It's everything in conjunction, everything. And everything is a contradiction. I know that I'm an odd girl. I know that I walk around and people are confused. They are concerned. What is this girl's agenda? What is she doing? What is she up to? My agenda is to live. My agenda, my true underlying issues are that God wants me to survive, and that's why I've survived all these suicide attempts, because I wake up afterward. My body has some way of protecting itself even when I'm in a comatose state. And I realized that when I took those 90 bars of Xanax and I woke up. I thought maybe it was too many for my stomach. I dropped down to 30 bars. You can't comprehend how unjustifiable it was that I had access to these pharmaceuticals, these opioids that caused me to act out in such a manner and to become addicted to these substances and have to leach out to other people for any type of emotional support. I was even financially sustaining myself when the devil was whispering in my ear, persuading me to take all of these narcotics. And that was that they were prescribed, by doctors, by people that should have known better, that should know that true health starts from within. And even meditation and reflection, regardless of whatever religion you believe in, that introspection can alter the mind. And so medicinal marijuana is one of those drugs that connects you to God. And I do forget the term. My psychologist used it the other day, and I'll have to look it up. I told him, sometimes when I'm chatting with him, I don't have the moment to write down so that I can get that definition I need in order to convey what I'm thinking to others. So, anyway, I get off on my tangents. I do. And it doesn't really matter because nobody really believes me. Everybody thinks that because of my records, because of the documentation stated, I have bipolar disorder. I couldn't possibly be competent enough to be able to sustain myself in a normal manner. I am not, quote unquote, normal. So I understand these diagnoses are both beneficial and regulatory and in controlling, manipulative in that way to where people can use them either positively or negatively against you. That's what had happened in my divorce hearing, because nobody actually saw it as, oh, she's suicidal? Why is she suicidal? Oh, she's just crazy? That's what you heard? Oh, she's violent? Oh, that's what you heard. Oh, but did you actually meet the girl? Did you actually meet her? Did you know that she's disabled and she needed an advocate and there should have been a public defender set in place for something like that? Did you not realize that? Oh, it's unconstitutional on your behalf to have negated those things. Oh, okay, I see that. So everything that happened was unlawful. That divorce signature, that paperwork shouldn't even be viable to this day. So that would mean that I'm still technically married to my ex-husband. And I tried to state that to everyone too. There was no notary involved for that signature that you had utilized in court. I didn't even show up to the divorce hearing. None of it makes any sense. And here I am, just chugging along with my story, because everyone knows I'm very avoidant. I mostly have avoidant behavior due to the lack of emotional support I've had my entire life. So I just presume at some point they're going to get their shit together, they're going to get their act together, and they're going to alter their behavior so that I don't have to deal with it, so that I don't have to be harmed anymore. But nobody keeps to their word. That's called gaslighting. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize for many years that I had a form of Stockholm syndrome, to where I fall in love with the people that abuse me. I fall in love with the people that are most, influential upon me in that way. And I understand it stems from childhood. I had to love my parents, and it's what the Bible stated. It's the first manner to which I started learning, through which I started learning were the words of the Bible, trying to appropriate myself to man's creation, man's written creation, because God's word speaks through all of us. God's word speaks through every negative and positive in the universe, every fluctuation of energy, every imbalance as well as balance. So I tried to explain that to people. They thought I was being outlandish. They thought I was being too talkative. She's just very imaginative. When I would explain to people, women are very important, even more important at times than the man and the male figure, although they wanted to place themselves above and beyond, and up and away, man. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not the rightful balance. And that's why I'm very concerned about this pregnancy, because he's a boy, and I understand that it was the balance in what had to happen in my story. I am still very hesitant about what is to come, because I don't have as much prescience as I would prefer in this day and age, but my intuition is fairly spot on for a majority of things. And I just fall right into people's traps, or so they think. Because I want to test them, because God wants to test them, and it's not me. It's sort of something comes over me, my compassion, my patience, my love, my conveyed acceptance to their inequalities, their flaws. I try very hard to, and it's not trying very hard. Sometimes I get freaked out because of this day and age. Of course, there's a lot going on. And my initial reaction is fear, or maybe not malice, but confusion. And so, of course, some of my thoughts are aggressive, especially dependent on my mood. And I don't like to be angry or aggravated. I like to just be in a peaceful, calm state of mind. And that means having all of the things that comfort me around me and easily accessible. And I have not had that for the last 3 years. Since my house was removed from me, since all of my comforts were removed. I went to jail. I lost everything. And they didn't have a public defender in place for that either. And I found out later on that was something that was an obligation for the state to offer to someone that is disabled. So people clearly don't see that I'm disabled. They clearly see that I'm intelligent, hyper intelligent. They see that I suffer through copious amounts of depression due to all the stress, the post-traumatic stress. of the complex kind, I state, and that is a disability. So I understand their confusion. I understand that they don't want to offer me what I deserve, an allotment, but they have to comply because I am not stable, and I never will be stable because I never got the acceptance or the approval of my peers, of my, I would say sponsors, you know, because my parents sponsored my creation. They do not own me. Neither does the world around me. They've sponsored me to the point where I've managed to succeed to this level, which a lot of people don't get back from gaining that much weight. They don't get back from that. They don't regulate themselves or have self-discipline to where they don't gain all the weight back. And it's not just about my weight loss journey. It's about everything. It's about the fact that I refuse to give in to the devil. And sometimes, oftentimes, the devil works through the people we love most. And that's the sad part. My family members are encompassed by demons, encompassed by negative energy, and that's why it seeps off onto me, and I can't, as an empath, be around that type of nonsense because they're not seeing their flaws. They're not seeing and regulating themselves to an appropriate countermeasure. Like, how do you not realize that you are so negative that you're causing everyone around you to spiral out of control mentally and physically as well? So that's exactly what had happened within my ex-husband and I's relationship, because I'm a very sensible person prior to meeting him, after engaging with him. It's been 6 years since I've seen the man, and I think I'm doing a lot better mentally than I was during the years that we were together, because he was a very quiet, manipulative person. And those types of narcissistic and vain, as well as, backhanded type of people. Those types of people are very, because they're intelligent to a certain extent. Well, you left your loaded guns with me, remember? So that technically is attempted murder when you understood that you left it with a disabled individual that suffers from suicidal ideations. I'm just clarifying. I'm just clarifying. That's just how it is. He should be in prison, like I stated. There's a lot of things that were not handled justifiably in my cases, and that's why I tried to speak out, because God speaks through me when I articulate my words so well. And everybody thinks, oh, it's just the weed talking. No, it's weed that helped me to express myself and to be able to share my story on a competent level, a comprehensive level for most people to understand and agree with, and I don't want to just sway anybody into believing or agreeing with me. I want them to have their own perception on all of it. But at the same time, you have to see it from my perspective at least once before I die, and I've already gone on a tangent for 30 minutes. That being said, with all of my story, everything in conjunction, everything that has forced me to have to go and eat McDonald's right now because of my depression, because I have low funds right now, and I could care less, honestly, about the health of this baby. I mean, I do, but I don't. Nobody else was there to care for it. I tried my best. I have less than 3 weeks. Dear God, save me. Less than 3 weeks, which might come sooner because we know that contraction video, I was not feeling good. That didn't feel good. So I don't anticipate keeping the child, and that is perfectly okay. I know that the baby will suffer in foster care, but that is neither my fault nor is it my business from that point on. After the ejaculation happened, after I tried to reach out emotionally, I realized that person didn't exist. the person that I had first met, the person that had compassion, the person, well, I had thought was compassion, the person that had persuaded me into believing through their facade that they were a genuinely kind person, just like myself, and didn't want anything in return. But that was not what happened, and I fell for their guise, and I ended up realizing that no one can be trusted in that manner, no one of the opposite sex, and especially in my regard, because they'll see me as a wounded animal, they'll see me as a wounded woman, a wounded and lost individual, because I've been staying in my lost individual because I've been sleeping in my car and sustaining myself through homelessness. I realize how desperate that looks. I know that even when I was dating, I thought the officers would stand up for me. I thought that I had that behind me, at the very least, that if something were to happen at some point, regardless of the individual, they would see it clearly from my frail perspective, from my sort of naive and innocent perspective in that manner, just trying to be a girl, trying to go around, not get pounced on or forced into situations where I have to offer my body in exchange for a comfortable evening. I had no idea that men were so cruel, and I explained that to the father, one of them, and I say one of them has to be the father. There's no other choices. But the secondary man, I spoke to him, and I know that everybody gets really confused as to why I have comfort toward him, some compassion, some caring, some love, some appreciation, because he taught me a lesson. He taught me a very harsh lesson, and that has hurt for the last 9 months since I met him, and it was damning, but at the same time evolutionary, where I had to realize they aren't as evolved, and I need to be the bigger person in this, knowing that the child would not be comfortable in a vehicle, knowing that the child would not be well maintained without a protective father figure there as well. And that's okay. I understand that the father had issues, and that the child will understand that later on. I don't cry about these instances anymore because I made peace with it. I made peace with the fact that more than likely the father won't be in the room when I'm giving birth. More than likely I won't be married when it happens, and that's a sin against God, and I will give it up because there's no way of fixing this. We have a few weeks left together, and I'm just going to try my best and to keep him safe, to keep him as stress-free as possible, although I have to stress out constantly. And it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy at all. It's not something I had anticipated, because I had presumed that the things would go a lot easier for me. I thought that, when I had those sort of visions at first of what was going on, that it was going to come to fruition. But then again, nobody ever wants to listen to my energy. Nobody ever wants to open up to my energy. And I realize that I've been rejected more often than I even could comprehend. And I just had to realize, well, everyone rejects me. I just have to be alone. And that's okay. That is completely okay, because that rejection has strengthened me and built up a very self-sustained individual. regardless of whatever warrants they state, whatever kind of nonsense they're doing in their criminal judicial systems, that's nonsense. And if they don't end up dropping those charges, if they don't end up realizing what's really going on in this circumstance, then they are doomed, and doomed to repeat their failures. So, leave me alone. I've had enough trauma. Don't come at me, bro. I will make a mockery out of you in your courts. I will make fools out of you all, jesters. And I know that, right now it looks so bleak and people are talking smack to me and everything, but I know my place, and that's above those. That's above those that try to bring me down, because apparently I'm much more elevated than I even realized, and the fact that I caught on to all of your unlawful acts means that these proceedings are fabricated. They're falsified. And there's no reason that I should have to stress or worry or be concerned that I'm going to be tampered with, because if you do touch me again and forcibly detain me over allegations, then I swear, and we all swear, because we all swore under the same oath of God, that you will receive what you've sown. You will receive it. You will reap what you've sown. You will get back tenfold in that manner, because what goes around comes around, inevitably. And imagine if your daughter had to live through something like this. Imagine, oh, but you didn't molest your daughter, so your daughter didn't have that mindset. So I am not your daughter. I am nothing and no one to you, nor anyone, and that is completely fine. But that doesn't mean that my reality shouldn't be voiced. That shouldn't mean that my reality should be obsolete to everyone else, I existed. I'm here. I've pained and suffered for you individuals because you couldn't get your story straight. And, it's so interesting, because I feel so sorry for the child that he's going to have to suffer because the father didn't get his shit together in a timely manner. A week's time is plenty of time to at least respond, to have some type of correspondence to a woman you ejaculated in. So there's no reason that it should not be looked at as rape, because clearly it was. Clearly he was in denial of what he had done. Clearly he was in denial of the actions and whatever partook during that evening. That's why he ran off. He had no sense to come back with, well, why do you think I pinpoint these people? I expose them. Why do you think I have to? Because that's just God's will. You can run with your dick between your legs for as long as you want, but inevitably you'll get your karma. All of you. And it's funny, because I'll sit there and I'll be having a wonderful evening with an individual, and then all of a sudden their mindset switches and they want to take advantage of me sexually. And I've told these individuals, I'm not your wife. I am no one to you. There have been plenty of times I've had to reject many men. Many men. Many men. And children. That's all they really are. Boys. Inferior to me. So, I think that's funny, because when I told my ex-husband how pathetic he was, he just couldn't handle it. The same thing with this father to this child. They just can't comprehend how pathetic they truly look, and how ridiculous they are for having hurt somebody that was not there to hurt them, but was there to care for them in such a manner that no one else has cared for them. So, yeah, that's pretty funny. And that's why this child can't have me, because that would be a sin. That would be that would be selfishness on my behalf to try to place him into, you know, a struggling position where there is no father, because that is not what I chose for my next children. I prayed for a family. I didn't pray for just one offspring and I was just going to accumulate a random family. No, thank you. I am not my sister. I've learned from the people around me. I've learned from the instances, and everybody tries to beat me down. And yes, you know, I peed on myself as I was trying to use my bucket last night. Yes, we all go through these humiliating experiences, because that's the flow of nature. That's natural. That's normal for these things to happen. It's normal to have to use and utilize some of the free resources around you when you're struggling. And I shouldn't be ashamed of having gone through all of this. Not at all. That's what I was allotted. So I was just trying to get out of the hole that was created for me by everyone else, because I wasn't issued enough in order to sustain myself properly and, you know, in a classy manner, right? So otherwise I wouldn't need anyone whatsoever. If I had my allotment that covered a home, an allotment that covered, and I tell everyone, disability is not enough to live off of. It is not enough to sustain yourself appropriately and to be able to excel. So they don't want anyone to excel. They don't want any extras to have to deal with, because if someone else is striving for more in an upper middle class or middle class position, that leaves less for the rest of us. And I get that. That's why I'm not trying to be too greedy. I'm not trying to be too gluttonous, but I'm extremely hungry constantly because there's another being inside of me. Although I know that my tendencies to overeat have displayed my gluttonous behavior, and I'm very remorseful of that. But whatever. I may be seen as being slothful, just loafing about, just not doing anything. I'm conserving my energy. I have to, in order to fight the demons around me. So I have to spend a lot of time being inert and just not having. It may look like lethargy to some people, but it's not. I have to recoup a lot of times by just being still, so that I can combat whatever's coming, so that I can confront the individuals that are going to be incredulously insane toward me. So, inconceivably insane, inconceivably backward or contradictory themselves, and hypocritical. So, but yeah, I haven't been lustful. I've been keeping to myself. I try very hard not to be a Jezebel. And, you know, my pride has gotten to me. It really has, at times, where I was so proud of the accomplishments that I had attained in this life. Not many people can state that about themselves or their story, that they've overcome so many hurdles and managed to have a smile still on their face. It's been a tumultuous path, a very arduous path, but I've managed to refrain from a majority of sinfulness and refrain from, degrading myself to such a manner that I don't have any self-respect whatsoever. I still have some, obviously. My integrity is still intact. I still follow through with the things that I'm determined to follow through with. And, so how many of the sins are there left? Let's see. Of course, I was envious toward a lot of people, and that caused me to wander with what I truly wanted, what I truly want in life, which is not aesthetics, not material things, but just pure love, true love. Just that simplistic thing, something that would comfort me at the end of the night, something that would comfort me and always be there. And the love of the pets that have passed, that's still always going to be with me. That's still always going to be there. The love that I had for my child, my first child, that I reared for 3.5 years, that will always be there. That will never be able to be removed from my mental state. And although they tried with the frying of my brain and all the different medications, and at times they had asked me, well, who are these people? What do you mean? They exist. I thought. Or so I thought. That's why I offered you back to your social security numbers, because that seems ridiculous. It seems a little absurd that you're going to try to confuse me years ago, and then all of a sudden I still have these numbers. Hey, just so you know, you can eat them. So, yeah, because what are we, just a number to everyone? We're not an individual. We're not special, each one of us. Interesting how hypocritical you've been in telling others it's good to be oneself. It's good to express yourself individually, and yet it's a sin. And then you get the wrath of God upon you. I control my wrath fairly well, so I know that my verbal regurgitation of your own issues, that is not my wrath. I mean, you haven't even seen my wrath in some ways. Other people have, and I feel sorry for that, because I mean, I haven't murdered anyone, but there are times where I wonder how far I've eaten away at someone's consciousness and forced them into a state of disrepair and damage, like you've done to me. I worry. I don't like to be so, accostive, if that's the way to, I don't like to be so verbally aggressive, and I know that I am at times with my condescending, backhanded remarks, but don't you deserve that? I mean, don't you deserve a little bit of sarcasm for what you've inflicted upon me? And then, let's see. That is all 7 of the sins, isn't it? Greed, gluttony, lust, pride, sloth, wrath, and envy. I tried to discuss that in my first novel that I tried to write, but then, of course, I have no idea where a copy of that might be, and how falling prey to these sins is going to be the downfall of mankind. And if only people would listen and repent and alter their reality and alter their behavior so that they could sustain something after death. Because there is an eternal life. There is energy beyond this. You cannot just physically, through physics, through science, we have proven that energy just does not stop at the point of death. That it alters itself to a different reality and a different, energy, a different plane. Because you can't stop energy. It just is. So, anyway, I hope everyone is having a blessed, what is today? Wednesday, I believe? In a couple of days, I'll be 37 weeks along. I'm trying very hard to keep myself, stable. Mentally, financially. I just don't give a fuck. I just don't. And I know that I'm so, there's so many facets of me and my character and my personality that are intriguing to most. But I can't help that I am the way that I am. God made me this way. I just am. And I feel like people don't comprehend that. I feel like you just need to leave me alone sometimes. I want nothing to do with you. You're not going to alter my frame of mind by just like offering me a home before the birth of this child, or finally offering me some semblance of stability materialistically. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. And having a bunch of random children by random men, yeah, sorry. This baby is damned. And it's because we weren't married. It's because it was sinful what was created, and he'll know that one day. And there's nothing wrong with exposing the truth to a child. There's nothing wrong with being an adult with a child in that manner, because that child will grow up with psychological issues if you are hiding the facts and the truth from it. Same with my daughter. The fact that some people say, well, she doesn't even know you. Well, then my ex-husband is doomed, isn't he? Because he completely cut me out of the picture, replaced me. You cannot replace the type of mother I was. You cannot replace the type of love, unconditional love that I've offered to people. You cannot. That's why people love and hate me, because they cannot help but realize, my God, she might have been the only person that had ever offered her services, her kindness, her patience, her company in such a way that I'll never receive again. And that's my curse to those individuals, because you had me and you lost me. You had the opportunity to have someone genuine and transparently compassionate in your life, and you chose to force me away. You chose. I do that to a lot of people now because I don't want to harm them. I don't want to hurt them in any way. And it's my choice, because I don't want to love anymore. I've realized the pain that comes with loving something else. And I love everything. That's great, wonderful. But I cannot bring it into my heart space, into my home, because I have to protect that. And God lives in here. There's too much of God in here for anything else individually in that way. I'm not going to seek out riches. I'm not going to seek out, trying to sustain this baby. If God didn't allow it properly, then it doesn't exist to me. And that's what God says. And that's okay. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in having attempted and having fallen. We're all human. We're only human. And we all bleed the same. We all have the same sort of, not necessarily all bleed the same, but you know what I mean. But yeah, we're all like each other. I'm just like you, only a little different, So I hope everybody has a blessed rest of their week. And I hope that this video gave you a good perspective on where my mindset is today and why I choose to act and deliberately disobey as I do. Because reprimanding me for things I have not done is unjustifiable and ungodly. So I refuse to believe it. That's nonsense. Even if you do capture me, I will be calm. I will go along with whatever manipulative tactics you have in what is that, sort of engaged with my story, on the agenda for my story in particular. And I'm not worried. I leave my life in God's hands. I leave my God, my efforts and everything in God's hands. Everything and lack thereof effort. Where people say, oh, what is she not doing anything? I'm resting. I'm preparing for something that I did not anticipate 9 months ago. I didn't search for. I wasn't manipulating anyone for. I thought it was true love because we had created a life. And then I realized it was not, because he had no remorse. He had no intention of following through with his action of utilizing me sexually. That was it. That's all it was, and that's all that can be said. I'm the one that has the scars, and he's gonna walk away scot-free to damage more people and that's on you, not me. I tried my best, and the fact that I haven't spoken to the man, it doesn't matter. This child is lost, is already in limbo. So, all right, I love you very much, and I hope everybody has a blessed day. And today is August 10th, 2022. Hopefully you're doing something good for yourselves and maintaining yourselves and being active, as well as getting water and staying hydrated. I'm sorry my videos are always so long, but I have a lot to discuss because there's always a lot on my mind, and I can't change that because my mind is always overworking. I'm always overly considerate, overly mindful, or too mindful for my own good. Have a good day.